Welcome to the Irish Occupational Therapy podcast, hosted by me, Jen Trechek.
And me, Aileen Rutledge.
This podcast is dedicated to exploring the world of occupational therapy, sharing the latest research and techniques and providing insights into the many ways that occupational therapy can help people of all ages live more fulfilling and meaningful lives.
Whether you are a practicing occupational therapist, a student of occupational therapy, or simply curious about this fascinating field, this podcast is for you. We'll be interviewing experts in the field, sharing stories from the front lines of occupational therapy practice, and providing tips and advice for anyone looking to get the most out of their therapy.
So sit back, relax, and join us on this exciting journey into the world of occupational therapy in Ireland. So today we're really excited to speak to Raphael. Raphael's a Cork-based artist who does a range of different types of music. He's a rapper, he's a spoken word artist, he uses lots of different genres. And I first came across Raphael through AOTI. Raphael, I think you were doing some work with the Cork Migrant Centre and you had some really interesting workshops in terms of giving people a voice, which sounded really intriguing. And then I learned you're also an occupational therapy student. You're in your final year in UCC. So we're absolutely delighted to have you on the Irish Occupational Therapy podcast to hear a little bit about your experiences. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been quite a journey with the music and being an OT student, and I'm looking forward to share a bit about me with you guys. So yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about your background. Is music your first love? What brought you into occupational therapy? Tell us about you.
Okay, so music would have been my first love. When I first came to Ireland, I guess I lived in direct provision. We were in the system for just under 2 years, and there wasn't a lot of representation. I guess we were the only Black family, the first Black family in the environment we were growing up in. And in media, I guess there also wasn't a lot of representation. And the only people that kind of looked like me were people on TV, and they were rappers and sporting figures, and there wasn't a lot. So I kind of aspired to be either a soccer player or a rapper. And I mimicked, I guess, a lot of rappers like the likes of 50 Cent, Tupac, and Eminem. And kind of found my voice through that. English wasn't my first language, and I guess I really just wanted to connect with people. And I did rapping for a long time, but privately, because it wasn't it wasn't mainstream, especially in Ireland. So I just felt a bit isolated, but it was just a way to kind of put my thoughts on paper and just kind of feel free, because I was very timid and shy. Still am a bit timid and shy, but found my voice through hip hop and through rap music, and also tried to, I guess, venture into the soccer, but didn't get far with that.
That wasn't your skill set.
That wasn't my skill set.
How old were you, Raphael, when you came to Ireland?
So I was about 6 years old. I was 6 years old, and I came with my family, and it was a really good experience overall. There was a few experiences where, of course, there was, I guess, microaggressions. There was some racism. There was just difficulty, I guess, fitting in because of the color of my skin, because of my accent, because of various different factors, I guess. But music always helped. It always helped, just to put down my thoughts on paper. It was it was therapeutic for me.
So it sounds like you started kind of at home writing down things for yourself and kind of getting a feel for the kind of voice that you had. But it might have taken a bit of courage, I guess, to bring that into the public domain. Tell us about that journey.
So it took about 10 years. I was so shy and scared to share with my peers and friends. I thought they'd think I'd be crazy rapping. And then I used to mess around in class just rapping. And this was in third year, so I was about 15. And a few of the lads were like, "Oh, you're actually not bad. You're actually kind of good." But I never took them seriously until I started a youth group. So I joined the YMCA, and the YMCA had open mic sessions, and they also had a kind of studio space. And those young facilitators there that would kind of guide you through the process of recording yourself, mixing and mastering music, and kind of just boosting your confidence around the art that you're doing. So I went into the studio one day, and there were two facilitators, Zen and Zelen. They're twins, and they're musicians, and they were listening to me rapping, and they were like, "You actually kind of you have a gift here. You have some talent here." So they brought me into the studio and they recorded my first track, and I guess after that they just recorded my album, and I had a song called "Your Love," which was just talking about, I guess, um, different types of love. I guess the love that you could have for your mother, the love in your relationship, the love from, I guess, if you're faith driven and you believe in God, the love that you see from God. So just different elements of love. And then we did a music video, and that showcased, I guess, the different elements of love as well. So my confidence boosted immediately after that, and I said, you know what, I'm an artist, and I found identity, I guess, in the art, and I was like very confident and felt like this is where I want to go. I want to pick it up as a career and see what happens. So yeah.
Amazing. Sounds like that sense of belonging that came through music was really important.
Definitely, definitely. And I always, since I started occupational therapy, I always reflect back on like, oh, I got into music, and what made me get into it. And I think the framework of even doing being belonging kind of, I always think of that, and I'm like, I did the music for 10 years in private, but then I found my community, and I felt like I was part of something, and I became something after some time. So yeah.
And Raphael, can you tell us then about occupational therapy? How did that come into your life? What was your first experiences of it, and how did you hear about it? And
So I didn't have a clue what occupational therapy was for the longest time. And then I was always interested in healthcare, and I always wanted to work in the healthcare sector. I wanted to be a doctor at some stage. I wanted to be a physio, radiologist, like, and a nurse. And I just couldn't like figure out what exactly I wanted to be. But I decided on nursing. So I did nursing for about 2 years. And then a lecturer, I believe, from the occupational therapy department came in to do a talk with us. It was just a little seminar where some of us went in. It was like an option, and he was talking about occupational therapy, and I was like, he's saying something here, and I like it, but I still don't really understand what it is. But I knew it was about activity and using kind of activity, meaningful activity to, I guess, help somebody. And I just loved the idea of that. And I just wanted to, I guess, it gauged my interest, and I wanted to find out more. So I did some research, and I remember watching an episode of House, and there was an episode where he was working with an occupational therapist, and he was using mirror therapy with somebody with like um what is it? Oh God.
An amputee or
An amputee, exactly. And I was just like, this is super cool. So I saw like another element of occupational therapy. So then I decided, you know what? I love nursing, but I'm going to switch to occupational therapy. So I went in as a mature student, and yeah, did the interview, got in, and I was delighted. And it's been the best decision, one of the best decisions of my life today. I absolutely love the profession, and I understand it now. I remember going into first year, still not having a clue what occupational therapy was. Second year, I was just kind of being able to describe it, and then in third year, I'm like, I actually get it.
They didn't throw it all up in the air in third year, and you kind of go, wait, I thought I had it, but now I'm not sure again.
Yeah. So
and
I
is there
did.
a particular area that you are interested in? What about your placements to date? What's piqued your interest?
So I've been lucky in the fact that I've had placement in almost everywhere. I've been in an acute setting, stroke rehab, pediatrics, literally everywhere. But the setting that I think is most appealing to me is mental health. I've done a lot of work, I guess, as you know, at the Cork Migrant Centre, where we do work under a kind of a psychosocial model. So the program coordinator is a psychologist. So we work under her framework and we do a lot of activities. So I feel like I've been working as an OT without maybe some of the OT, I guess, theory almost. Oh, I've been doing workshops like music workshops, creative workshops, dance, everything you can imagine. And I've seen the impact on the young people. And then I went into occupational therapy and I did my mental health placement. And I felt like this is quite similar to the work I'm doing already. But there's just more, I guess, structure and framework around it. So I was in a psychiatric intensive care unit, and then I was part of the mental health community team. And what I loved about it, I guess, was time. There's so much more time to work with the clients as opposed to the other settings I was in. And you actually really get to know the clients and get to use kind of a holistic approach in guiding them to, I guess, achieve their goals. And I think it's something I just really valued, the fact that you have that time to use efficiently with your client and actually tease out their goals. Whereas in some settings, it was just very, you're thinking about discharge. How do I discharge this person as quick as possible? And you're working towards a goal, but is it really, it seems very rushed and you don't have that, I guess, time to even build that therapeutic relationship with the client. So yeah, I just love the fact that you could do workshops with people in mental health. I love the fact that you're also working with the clients in mental health, but you're also advocating for them. There was a lot of advocacy work when we were there. A lot of advocacy work for the clients, but also to improve the system, I guess. Mental health is great and it's come a long way, but there's still like so much more to do in regards to like maybe the amount of funding that's available for mental health, the stigma around mental health. There's still lots of stigma around it. So I love advocacy. I feel like I advocate for a lot of, I guess, mental health and anti-racism. So I feel like it just suited me to the ground, and I think that's where I'm headed. So yeah.
It sounds like you've got a really strong platform to be able to advocate. You've got a public image, which, it's really inspiring to meet somebody who's going to use that to better the lives of the people around them. I think that's fantastic.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So we had a question from one of the listeners of the podcast, a young person in Leaving Cert who's thinking about becoming an OT, and they were really interested in, like yourself, the mental health side, the biopsychosocial side, but a little bit daunted by the idea of working in a hospital or in the acute care setting, which I can understand. How would you have any kind of suggestions or tips on how to navigate that as an OT student?
It is daunting initially, but I think once you come into the practice, you get so much support and guidance from the occupational therapy department. So as you're going into these settings, there's a lot of prep work in advance. So you're being prepared to go into the setting, and you have a practice tutor who's always there, an educator to guide you. You learn a lot about the setting prior to going into the setting. It's not, I was terrified going in as well. I think every student is. But I think passion almost overtakes that fear. So if you're passionate about mental health, you have nothing to worry about, because passion is I guess the biggest driver for you. So yeah.
And I think on any placement, a curiosity, if a student comes in approaching it with an air of curiosity and wanting to find out, as OTs, we love that and we feed off that. So that's a key thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you're right too, Raphael, about the structure in an acute setting. There is that team, the presence of people around you, whereas in the community, maybe you are working a little bit more on your own. There's something too about the uniform as well, putting on your OT uniform in the acute setting, it just feels a lot more formal, doesn't it?
Definitely, definitely. And I guess I was lucky in the fact in mental health I didn't have to wear a uniform. So it depends on the setting you're in. I just wore smart casual clothes. And depending on where you're meeting the client, you might wear sports clothes. So if you're going to the gym or something with them, yeah, you dress appropriately for whatever, I guess, intervention you're planning
Yeah.
to do.
Raphael, could you share with us just a little bit more about hip hop and your love for music and your role as an artist and how that might play a part in your OT role? So you see yourself going into the mental health field. I can see obviously as a complete outsider looking in how that would work very well. But can you share with us some of your plans for that?
Yeah, so I guess as I said earlier, music kind of gave me a voice and it boosted kind of my self-confidence and self-esteem and gave me an identity. And I think it's done so much for me. And I see the positive impacts of what hip hop can do. And I guess there's so many different elements to hip hop music. So you have the rapping, which is like the MCing. You have, I guess, DJing. A lot of people don't associate DJing with hip hop, but that's where it derived from. There's dance, like break dancing and various other types of dance forms. And there's so much even art, like there's graffiti. There's so much around it. And I think with hip hop, you could do so much in regards to, in particularly with young people, because I think it's become a genre that has become so mainstream and has become so popular amongst young people. And I guess in the workshops that I've done in the Cork Migrant Centre, I've I've been able to connect with the young people quite quickly just because of their interest in hip hop music or dance or DJing. So you connect with them immediately and you're able to build, I guess, that therapeutic rapport with them. And then it progresses. So with hip hop, you could express yourself in so many different ways. And I do it, I guess, in regards to talking about my personal issues, or talking about, I guess, the inequalities that are happening around the world. And you see the young people express themselves in ways that they wouldn't naturally do just in general conversation. Because in the beginning, you might talk about their interests and hobbies, and then it goes from interest and hobbies to I want to talk about an incident that happened at school that I wasn't happy about. I want to talk about a mental health difficulty that I find challenging. I want to talk about racism. I want to talk about being neurodivergent. I want to talk about, there's so many things. And then they open up in ways that you can actually get a taste of their world and actually provide support if needed. So they might, I remember there's a young person who was talking about in their hip hop song about a challenge around school and his kind of, so he came in as a migrant, so he was unsure whether he can transition into third level education or not. And through that, we were able to help him. You know, we were able to give him that support and guide him into third level education and help him and give him the supports that he needed. And also last year, a lot of the young people started, we'll say, hip hop workshops, we'll say in January, and then they wanted to do a summit and talk about, I guess, racism. So there was an anti-racism summit that was led by the young people, and it was the first that ever happened in Ireland. And they led that in June, and they invited like a lot of politicians and change makers, policy makers, and started rapping in front of the policy makers. Like I'm talking like those politicians, those people that the Gardaí, there was so many people, and you could see the impact that it had on even the older generation because they love hip hop as well. But the fact that the young people were so bold in expressing themselves, I think, was huge, and you could see their self-confidence and identity being formed from hip hop. They can now say, "I'm a rapper," or "I'm an artist," or "I'm a DJ," and I think those, I guess, those goals that they've achieved and felt can be transferred, I guess, to occupational therapy through hip hop facilitation. I mean, young people almost, when you talk to young people, it seems like almost 1 in 4 is struggling with their mental health or struggling in expressing themselves in some shape or form. So I feel like hip hop can be used as a tool in occupational therapy to help with expression and to help with identity and to boost confidence and self-esteem and alleviate a lot of those mental health challenges such as anxiety and stress.
Amazing.
Yeah, so yeah.
One of the things that you mentioned earlier is your career path and seeing yourself in professions, and you kind of saw rapping and football as being people like you. And we know in Ireland, in occupational therapy, it's predominantly white women, middle class women who are occupational therapists. It was certainly served up to us at the AOTI conference this year. Dr. Anita Atwell said, you know, Ireland, you got to do better. We got to see better representation among the profession for, you know, to represent the population that we serve. And I don't know if this is a fair question for you, Raphael, because it's a big one. But what can we do better? You know, as an OT profession, how can we encourage more people from a diverse range of backgrounds to access our profession?
Yeah, that's I was thinking about that. That's a really good question. And I think a lot I think it works two ways. So I guess with people from Black and Brown, the Black and Brown community, they don't have a clue what occupational therapy is. In a lot of, we'll say, if I speak for myself, in a lot of Western African countries, I'm from Togo, West Africa, so there wouldn't necessarily be occupational therapists in that region of the world. So I guess we just need to talk about it more and need to have more discussions, open discussions, and go into the schools as well. I think like when I was in secondary school, um, we'd have like career days and you'd never see an occupational therapist come in. You'd see like maybe a doctor, an engineer, a nurse, somebody working in the business field, but you'd never really see an OT. And I think maybe we need to, I guess, go into the school environment and actually discuss like what the role of occupational therapy is, what you can do as an occupational therapist, and really kind of clearly define it for the younger generation to really understand it. And also, there needs to be more representation even in media. Like if you're watching a TV show, you could watch something like, I don't know, any medical kind of show, like Scrubs, anything at all, and you'd see like almost every kind of healthcare profession, but you'd never see an occupational therapist, like hardly ever.
Or if you do, they're acting like a physio. They're not actually being an OT.
Literally. So I guess you need to look at, I guess, you need to approach it holistically where you're looking at every aspect, be it media, be it talking to a guidance counselor, maybe in a school, be it going to a school yourself, be it using social media as well. Even like you guys doing the podcast, that's an initiative to raising more awareness, I guess, to what occupational therapy is. And I think maybe, I don't know, I remember going into class, we go into class sometimes and they talk about like making a name for yourself in the occupational therapy profession, but also being aware with what you post on social media and stuff like that. And in some cases, even like putting your page on private. But I think maybe students in OT also need to be brave enough to discuss like their profession and what they're hoping to do online. Like use TikTok, talk about like what OT is, use your Instagram pages, put some information there, because I think young people are so attracted to social media today. And if they see something about occupational therapy, that might gauge their interest. So maybe there needs to be some type of social media strategy that can be used. And also in the workplace, I guess there needs to be maybe a strategy looking at, I guess, how do we get more people of color or more diverse populations into the profession, and that there needs to be more discussions around that. I don't have a solution, but I think it all begins with conversation and constantly. You can't just talk about it one time and just be like, oh yeah, we'll think about it next year. It just needs to be constant, and a solution will come from conversation, I believe. Yeah.
And Raphael, what's your own journey been like? Being from a diverse background, what's your journey as an OT student in University College Cork?
It's been great. I've been so you go into class and it's like you said, it's predominantly white females, and you go in and you're a black male and you're like maybe one or two males in the class, but you get taken care of, you know. So it's
Lots of mommy figures.
yeah, yeah. So it's really nice. And I've had a great experience so far. The occupational therapy department in UCC have been so supportive, and they've always checked in with me, you know, because they know I've come in as a mature student. I've come in, I guess, as a migrant, and there's this just understanding where I'm allowed to express myself, and I'm allowed being given. They've created like a safe space and brave space where you can actually discuss, I guess, my perspective of, we'll say, we might talk about culture in class, or we might talk about identity. So I feel like I've been able to give a lot of input from my personal experience, and it's been done in a way where I can do it boldly and not feel like I'm second guessing myself, and in a way, in an environment where everybody's learning from each other. And the other thing I love about, I guess, the occupational therapy department is they support you not only, I guess, academically, but they support you in what you're doing outside of college. They've supported me so much in the work that I've been doing with the Cork Migrant Centre. There's days where I've had to do talks, I guess, abroad or for certain organizations, and they've kind of said, okay, you know what, this is important to you. You can miss the day of class, and then they've kind of put things in place where I can catch up and stuff. So they're very supportive in that sense, and it's just very. It's like they put a lot of what they're teaching you, I guess, a lot of the theory to practice themselves. And I guess one thing I just love that, and I feel like when I was in second and third year, I got to a stage where I started doing that for myself, where I started, I guess, applying, OTing myself, applying what I'm learning in OT to my own life. I remember going in and being organized has always kind of been a challenge for me. And so performance management, time management has been like a struggle. So I'm like, I need to OT myself. I literally need to organize myself. How do I go about it? So I put like goals in place. I've got like diaries, calendars, sticky notes. Like even for today, I had like 3 different notifications in place so I don't miss it. So you learn so much about your own life and how to approach other people and the challenges that they're facing. So I love occupational therapy. It's been an amazing journey so far. Yeah.
That was another one of our questions, actually, Raphael, about how do you balance it all? Because you've three very clear roles there: an artist, the Cork migrant work that you do in the centre, and then your role as an OT student and managing placements and assignments and that. So some of your skills as an OT now are coming to the fore with helping to balance it all. Is there any other strategies you use?
Prioritizing. You really need to reflect and ask yourself, what do you really want? And it's sometimes you have to sacrifice some things in order to prioritize other things. And it's been tough initially in first and second year. It was very tough because that's when I guess my career as a musician was kind of progressing, and I was getting a lot of gigs and I was doing festivals, and it just became difficult because I started prioritizing music over college work. And my lecturers could see it straight away, and they called me out for it. You know, they were like, they'd ask me like, what do you want to achieve? What is your long-term goal? And that made me really reflect and think to myself, I could do the music and I could do the work with the Cork Migrant Centre and facilitate workshops. But at the end of the day, I want stability. And I guess stability comes with becoming an occupational therapist, and I can use all my experience from music and facilitating in occupational therapy. And once I graduate and become an OT, I can do music and the facilitation also. So it's just
Is that
being selfish in what you want, and really prioritizing and goal setting. Yeah.
that short-term pain for the long-term gain?
That's it. That's it. Love that.
If people want to follow you, Raphael, your artist name is different. What's your artist name?
Olympio.
Olympio. And you're on all the socials?
All the socials. I mainly use Instagram more than the other ones. Instagram, yeah, Twitter as well. So yeah.
And then any gigs coming up?
Yeah, I'll be, well, not until after I graduate because I've been prioritizing college and 5 months left. So I really want to do well. But I'll be performing at Electric Picnic. I'll be, the Everyman will be doing some festivals this summer. So just, yeah, I guess look out for me during the summer. All together now as well. So there's a few festivals in the summer that I'll be performing at. And if you follow me on my page, you'll see it all. I'll give you plenty of notice if you're interested in seeing me perform.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We are so lucky as a profession to have somebody with your background, with your experience coming in and hopefully representing and seeing, helping other people to recognize themselves in the face of the profession going forward. Really appreciate you sharing your experience with us. And we wish you the best of luck with the music career as well as the occupational therapy career. You can definitely have it all. Why not?
Definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Raphael.
Thank you.
That's all for today's episode on the Irish Occupational Therapy podcast. We hope you enjoyed our discussion and found it informative and engaging. If you've any questions or comments, we would love to hear from you. You can email us at irishotpodcast@gmail.com or connect on Instagram or Facebook.
And remember to subscribe to our podcast so that you never miss an episode. If you found this episode helpful, please leave us a review on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback is important and helps us to improve the show, so please do leave it. Thank you for listening to the Irish Occupational Therapy podcast, hosted by myself, Jen Trachak.
And myself, Aileen Rutledge.
We look forward to sharing more insights and knowledge with you in future episodes. Until then, take care.